Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. Now, I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, many different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are just very solid all round. These days, they've got a core range that goes all across the country, but they still have a lot of experimental beers that are as good quality as the ones they were producing when they were very, very small. So that's really great to see. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I've had from them a couple of times before. It's one of their latest releases, and I've heard that this one is pretty nice actually. So, needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully, it's another good beer. Hopefully, it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So, yeah, for this review, then, we are going to head a little bit northeastish of me here in Osaka over to Mie Prefecture. We're going to go to the city of Ise, which is very famous for its shrines, the home of the Japanese Shinto religion. But that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Ise Kadoya. So this particular beer is called Monologue IPA. It comes in at 7% ABV, and they're describing this one as an American IPA. But I have to say, it does look quite kind of West Coasty. But this is a beer that I actually bought from one of their locations in Ise, which was kind of cool. We went there and we had a beer, and we also bought a couple of bottles. So yeah, that was really nice. Definitely cool to have bought this one at source actually. Since this is an Ise Kadoya beer as well, a massive shout out to Jordan of Outside or Inside Japan, if I'm remembering the name of his channel correctly. I always mess that up, but he's got a lovely channel that's about rural life in Japan and shows you what he does out there. So yeah, you'll see him again on a few videos at some point in the future. Big beer enthusiast, not quite as nerdy as me with it, but he's got some really nice videos that show you about life in Japan. So yeah, he'll be on the channel again at some point, and he loves Ise Kadoya, of course. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we get on. The Monologue IPA at 7% ABV. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Ise Kadoya before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things, and that's being added to quite regularly at the moment, of course, because I'm here for a wee while. But yeah, let's crack on then and chat a wee bit more about Ise Kadoya then. So, Ise Kadoya, as I've mentioned to you already, is from the city of Ise in Mie Prefecture in the Kansai region of Japan, right over on the east coast. And this city is dubbed the holy city of the Shinto religion, and it's home to over 200 Shinto shrines. And notably, you'll find the Ise Grand Shrine there, which I went to visit. It was very nice. Not quite as colourful as I expected it to be compared to other Shinto shrines, but it is definitely a really cool place to go and see and experience, I would say. But the city apparently gets about 5 million visitors per year, but it's actually a relatively small town of only 130,000 people, which is quite impressive. It was quite crowded when I was there, actually. But to talk about the Ise Kadoya brewery, the brewery was founded back in 1997. And it's owned by Narihiro Suzuki, who had previously studied microbiology at Tohoku University, which is one of the kind of big northern region on the Japanese main island. But he runs the company along with his wife Chika Suzuki, who does a lot of work in the company's restaurants. And the root of the Suzuki's family business actually go back to 1575, when his family started the Kadoya Cafe with the aim of selling the Kinako Mochi tea to the Ise pilgrims. And Narihiro is apparently the 21st generation of his family to run the company. So yeah, These guys are a very, very old company. If you go into the full, if you're looking at the wider company rather than just the brewery, but the full company name is now Nikenjaya Mochi Kadoya Honten, and apparently this is one of the longest running companies in Japan, and the oldest companies in the world are in Japan, of course, which is kind of crazy. But in the early days, the company struggled when the Jibiru boom of the early 90s, or of the 1990s, fell flat in Japan. I think it was 93 everything started to kick off. And basically, there were a lot of little breweries popped up and they were brewing German-style beers, but, you know, the quality control wasn't there. They were expensive because all the ingredients had to be imported and so on. So a lot of these little breweries that started in the 90s died. But Ise Kadoya are, of course, one of the success stories. But in the early days, the company did struggle, and they took a gamble and produced some Shinto beers as a sort of souvenir beer, and it was this that kept the company going through the difficult times. And only in 2010 did the Ise Kadoya beers actually start to perform better than the Shinto beers that they were producing. But the brewmaster at Ise Kadoya is Masakazu Nakanishi, who joined the company in 1997 after having worked an office job, and he had apparently studied fermentation in high school during his agriculture classes, and the brewery were apparently looking for a brewer, and it was just the perfect timing and the perfect fit. So this was around the time that his contract finished, and there he went. But he later became the brewmaster in 1999. And another instrumental man in the running of the Ise Kadoya brewery is Yoshihiro Matsuoka, who is the restaurant manager and the label designer, and he is also known as the walking beer dictionary because he's just got a ridiculous knowledge of beer from across the world. But the brewery import various hops and malts from across the world. They use water from the local Miyagawa River, which if you go and see it, it's very, very pure, but this is filtered through charcoal microfilters to make it suitable for beer brewing. And they apparently are very thorough in their quality control as well. And they've won many awards for their beers to date. They're one of the most decorated craft breweries in Japan. They've got a number of locations these days, but the two notable ones would be Biyagura, which is the on-site restaurant. And there's also the Ise Kadoya Kaikumaiten, which I think Jordan and I popped into and had a beer. So we will do an out and about video at that at some point in the future when it's a little bit quieter. But these guys have got a core range of beers, various seasonal beers. They produce cider, soy sauce, tamari, miso paste, and kinakomachi tea. And in 2018, they opened up a new brewery, which has given them the capacity to brew 650,000 litres of beer per year. And more recently, they've also created a core range of beer which is being canned and put in a lot of supermarkets across Japan. You can find the Ise Kadoya core range actually quite easily in a number of Aeon Mall outlets and stuff like that, which is kind of cool to see. It's nice to see that craft beer is becoming a little bit more known in Japan, because for a long time it was a very kind of underground thing. But yeah, more recently as well, they've kind of just been experimenting with more and more different styles actually, which is nice to see. But they've been producing a lot of IPAs in recent times, I would say. But as of February 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced in the region of 500 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Ise Kadoya Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at this beer itself then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one, you can see they've kind of modernized the Ise Kadoya symbol there, which is quite nice. And there you can see this label art, which is very nice too. There's the Ise Kadoya bottle cap on this one. They of course used to be green, which I quite like the green ones, I have to say. But yeah, you can see they've sort of rebranded a little, they've changed their branding and stuff a little bit and modernized it, which is quite nice actually. You know, you need to freshen up every so often. But yeah, this one comes in, as we said, the Monologue IPA, 7% ABV. The hops in this one are Talus, which we know quite well. Talus is a daughter hop of, oh, the name's gone right out of my head. Sabro, that's it. It's a daughter hop of Sabro. It comes in at 14% alpha acid. It's American, and it gives you this very kind of pink, grapefruity character actually, but you still get a bit of that sort of coconutty thing that you would always get from Sabro. But let's get this guy out into the glass then and see how we go. This one is a fairly new release as of 2020, as of February 2024. From what I understand, I think this was only, I know that Koji at Liquor Shop Asahiya only got this in a couple of, maybe about a week or two ago, if I remember rightly. Yeah. So this is a fairly new release, this one, and I think it will be very, very nice. So, yeah. This looks good actually. So before the head disappears, you can see that it's poured with a solid finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. There's a few kind of bigger bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, and it gets foamier the further up the head that you go. But if we shine the light through this beer, you can actually see this one is kind of crystal clear. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, but really not much in the way of visible carbonation. And in terms of the colour, I think to you guys it's appearing like quite a bright yellow, but to me it does have the slightest of amber tints to it. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to IPAs. So yeah, this one certainly looks, if we're talking about American IPAs, for those of you who don't know what the term American IPA refers to, I mean, for me, you often hear about West Coast IPAs and New England IPAs. The generic term American IPA for me means something kind of in between. So yeah, sometimes you have a little bit of the kind of breadiness and smoothness of the New England, but you've also got a wee bit more bitterness from the West Coast side of things, and sometimes a wee bit of sweetness. And going by the appearance of this one, I think this is going to be a more kind of West Coasty leaning type IPA, but we'll just need to see. We'll just need to see with this one. But let's have a wee look at the aroma and see how we get on, because I think we've said everything that we need to about the appearance. So yeah, let's do this. That smells really nice actually. Yeah, this is interesting, this one. It's not the most pungent of aromas that you're going to come across from Ise Kadoya, but it does actually have, it's got quite a kind of perfumey sort of vibe to it, quite a lot of floral character, and I'm getting a wee bit of the kind of coconutty thing from the talus as well. But yeah, certainly, if you sugar this up, you get some really, really nice, you do get some very, very nice sort of, yeah, you get some very nice kind of just deep oily fruitiness and floral notes out of this. This is quite interesting. I think this, just going by the aroma, I think this one is definitely going to lean more toward that West Coast side of things. But let's just try and break that aroma down for you a wee bit then and describe it a little bit more in depth. So for me, the backbone of this beer, it's got a good little bit of, you get a nice little bit of a kind of fresh, sort of brown bready bread crust in there. You can smell that in this one. There's definitely a little bit of that sweeter brown bread in there. You are getting a little bit of white bread as well. If I was guessing, I would say that the malts in this are probably German. It comes across as like more crystal malt rather than anything else. So it would not surprise me if it's crystal malt that's in here, because it has that little bit of crispness to it. But yeah, the bread isn't madly prominent in the aroma. You have to search for that a wee bit. But I'm getting quite a little bit of kind of sweet caramelly note. There's a good little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuit. Yeah, sweet caramel, McVitie's digestive biscuit. And the more that you smell of it, the more that you get that kind of sweeter side of it too, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I think it's been a while since I had a single IPA from Ise Kadoya as well, come to think of it. So this is one of the reasons why this kind of jumped out at me a little bit when I was in the shop. I thought it just sounded quite interesting. But yeah, sweet caramel, McVitie's digestive biscuit, kind of brown bready notes underneath. It does smell very, very nice. I don't know if there's much else to say about the kind of malty side of things, to be honest with you. So let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer. So when it comes to IPAs, you have three kinds of hopping. Early edition hopping, which is in the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness and a deeper dank aroma. Late edition hopping, which comes in the last half hour of the wort boil, contributes a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and that'll give you a brighter green component aroma-wise. And then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that will give you dry hopping will give you all flavour and aroma, and it will give you that very kind of bright green component as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff to think about with hopping there. But this one, as I say, it has a very bright and kind of perfumey sort of green component to it, which I have to say I do quite like. So yeah, the aroma, this one's quite interesting. You can certainly get a little touch of earthiness out of it, but lots of very kind of bright floral aromatic characters, and it has a wee touch of deep dankness to it as well, which makes me think, yeah, there has definitely been some late edition, early edition, late edition, and dry hopping in here. Remember, New England IPAs tend to rely on late edition and dry hopping. West Coast IPAs use all three. This one has definitely been hopped more along the lines of a West Coast IPA, because there's deep dankness in there. You've got bright floral aromaticity as well, quite a zesty grassiness, I might add, as well. Yeah. The fruity side of this one's really interesting. I'm trying to pick out exactly what it is. It has a little bit of this kind of peachy or guava-y type note to it, but Talus, a lot, for me, Talus was always kind of pink grapefruit. It was always that pinky grapefruit note that you got out of it, and you can get that in this one. It has a good little bit of pungency to it, actually, which is quite interesting. But the aroma of this one is quite different to a number of IPAs that I've had from, it's quite different to a number of IPAs that I've had from Ise Kadoya, but I think this is the first West Coasty one that I've had in quite some time. So those were the two main reasons I went for this one, because it looked more West Coasty when I shone the bottle up at the light, and yeah, it's the first single IPA that I've had from these guys in quite some time. So yeah, I enjoy my West Coast IPAs. But yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy that aroma before you get stuck in. I think we've said everything we need to about it, and let's have a wee look at the beer itself. So yeah, this is the Monologue IPA, 7% ABV. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Kampai. Oh yeah, that's pretty damn nice, actually. This would be one that would be good, I tend to drink beers more for the kind of flavour, if you like. I'm not the biggest sessioner, albeit, some of my colleagues in Hong Kong, they like to go and have one or two beers after work, and I join in sometimes. And, for me, I like a beer that's got a little bit more kind of punch to it. And this would be just that, for me, it's 7%, but it does have just that kind of more punchy flavour to it. So this would be one for me that I would have this is a kind of after work beer for me, this. I think this is very nicely done, but big thumbs up to Ise Kadoya for this. But I would say, stylistically, I can see why they call it an American IPA, because it maybe doesn't quite have the kind of bitter bite that you would expect from the old school West Coast IPAs, the 80-90 IBUs, but it certainly is more, it is more of a West Coasty leaning beer. So the lack of bitterness, or not lack of, the lower level bitterness is what would make me call this one, would make me agree with them calling it American. But yeah, it's like 80% West Coast, 80 or 90% West Coast, this. I think that's fair to say. So, yeah, this is really, really nice, actually. Gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah. where do we start with this then? We'll go to the middle third of the palate as we always do. I say that, where will we start? But yeah, middle third of the palate. So the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely kind of smooth brown bready character in there, and that is of course the backbone of the beer. And if you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little slight hint of woodiness out of the beer too, but that lingers there into the aftertaste. You've also got a nice little bit of you do also have a little bit of kind of crackery character coming out of this one too, which is good. So yeah, a little touch of a kind of crackery, McVitie's Digestive crackery kind of note there. Sorry, not McVitie's Digestive, that comes later. So there's a nice little bit of McVitie's Digestive biscuit in the sweetness, but above the kind of bread crusty there's a wee touch of cracker in there, and that comes out further into the aftertaste. But yeah, so you've got the bread crust, cracker, then you've got a layer of like a sweet brown bread in there, and then I think there's a wee bit of white bread sitting above that too. These kind of flavours are very reminiscent of German crystal malt. I'm pretty sure that's what's been used in here, and it feels, pardon me, it just feels very, very clean as well. But I think this is really quite nicely done. It's a big thumbs up from me for sure. The malty backbone of this is good, but then above the kind of white bready layer, that's when you start to get the sweeter side of things too. So for me, the sweeter side of things, it's interesting because you've got a little circle in the middle of your palate, and it's that kind of straight up sweet caramel, but you can feel the booziness in there as well. I will say that about this beer, it does have the lightness of it makes it seem a little bit boozier than it is. I mean, it's 7% ABV. It is one of the kind of boozier single IPAs you're going to come across. But as I say, it's not, when you think of what you can get from IPA, it's not the kind of biggest boozy one, if you like. But yeah, for me, you've got that little kind of caramelly circle right in the dead centre of your palate, and as you move further and further out from that, you get a wee bit more of a kind of McVitie's Digestive biscuity sort of thing to the beer as well, which is good. So yeah, I do like that. The malt base in this one is definitely more kind of West Coasty, California, whatever you want to call it, IPA leaning, this one. I definitely would say this is more West Coast than it is American. I'm curious as to why they've called it an American IPA rather than simply a West Coast, to be honest with you, because I think there's not really anything about it that makes it, the kind of in between West Coast, New England type deal that American IPAs normally are. But yeah, I think we said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate. Let's go to the back third of your palate then. So, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. So you can feel that kind of brown bread in the base, the white bread on the top, then the back, the base of that back third of your palate, you can feel the bread crust there, which is a little bit lighter and drier. And remember, what I often say about the back third of your palate is that you get similar flavours there to the middle third of your palate. They're just a little bit, drier and things like that. So yeah, you've got the bread crust in there. You've got the brown bready character which sits on top of that, which is a bit taller and lighter and more airy. Then you've got the white bready character that sits above that, which again is lighter and more airy. And you can feel that there's a bit of dry, grainy character just sits on top of all of that on the white bready sort of thing. So yeah, the back third of your palate's quite nice in that sense. And above everything else, you've got the yeasty side of the beer. So the yeasty flavours for me, you've got that more dense, sweet, white bready character in there. And you can feel that, you can certainly feel that in the middle. So yeah, dense, white bready character in there. You've got the kind of brown bready notes going around it, and then you've got the white bready character above that. You've got the kind of white bready and crusty character there too, but definitely back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, I like that about this one for sure. So, hoppy side of things then, green component first. Back corners of the palate, you've got that nice earthy, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's a little bit more, yeah, as you move further forward, it's got a little bit of that more kind of herbally type note. Then as you push further beyond that, there's a good little bit of floral aromaticity, which is nice. So yeah, floral aromaticity in there. Nice little bit of spiciness as well, come to think of it. But round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and a little bit more grassy. So yeah, you've got a wee bit of a kind of zesty grassiness in there as well. I would say, yeah, the bitterness on this beer is not massive. It has, and it doesn't have so much in the way of deep and dank character. So the early edition hopping, I think, is taking a back seat to other things in this beer. It's safe to say that. Yeah. Interesting. So I think that's everything we need to say about the green component. Let's focus on that front third of your tongue and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up there again. Brown bread in the base, white bread on top. Then the backbone of the beer, kind of fresh brown bready bread crust. You've got a wholemeal, you've got fresh brown bready bread crust, wholemeal brown bread, white bread there as well. And then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, for me, the I would say the fruity side of this beer is quite interesting because it's quite straightforward. Like if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, you do get that kind of strong grapefruity note, but it's quite a bright grapefruit, as you would expect when it's pink grapefruit rather than regular grapefruit. So yeah, you've got that strong grapefruity note further back, but as you move further forward on that front third of your palate, you start to get like a little bit more kind of gooseberry and maybe a little touch of a kind of lychee-ish flavour coming out of this one, and you can feel just that little touch of coconutty character sitting underneath the fruity side of the beer too. So yeah, I do really like how everything kind of pieces together in this one, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, interesting stuff for sure. So yeah, I really do like how this how all of this kind of pieces together. Actually, it's a lovely IPA this, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. Like I say, it's one of the it's like a lower bitterness West Coast IPA, this one. I think it's really nicely done, and it would be a good kind of sessioner, this. It's a bit of a shame if they only do this as a one-off, because I think they've pulled it off very, very well. But I've got a feeling, I don't know, when I saw the name Monologue, I thought maybe they've produced this a couple of years ago and then they've rebrewed it this time. I honestly don't know. But yeah, this is a solid beer, this one. So I think maybe they should look at keeping this, or keeping the base or reusing the base recipe and trying different hops and things, because if they market this as a West Coast IPA, I think they do quite well with it. This is solid. They've got this down to a T, to be honest with you. So good job to Ise Kadoya once again. Not surprised though, because I know the quality of beer that these guys can produce. Let's round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, mid-bodied, right in the middle of the spectrum. Carbonation does have a little bit of a prickle to it. It's got a very, very clean mouthfeel, which I do like as well. So yeah, for me, that the cleanness of the mouth feels good actually, and you know the water quality out in Ise is very, very good. In terms of the IBUs of this beer, I'd be tempted to say that it's 50 or 60, something like that. So it's not quite the 80 or 90 that you'd get from the style originally. But that said, the further into the aftertaste you go, the bitterness does build. So if you told me it was more, I could be convinced. But Ise Kadoya never put down what the IBU count of their beers is. That's one of the things. But the malt base, as we say, it's got a bit of dryness and graininess underneath. There's a bit of sweetness in the middle, or a bit of smoothness in the middle, and a wee bit of kind of sweetness on top. In terms of the IBUs, as I said, I think 60 seems a bit more appropriate with this one. Then you've got that nice oily fruity character in there, quite a pungent grapefruit. Then wee bits of like lychee and little bits of lychee and gooseberry and things too. So yeah, interesting stuff. But I think we can leave it at that for this one. This has been a really interesting beer to try actually, and I've certainly enjoyed it. So I do hope that Ise Kadoya consider keeping this one or using the base recipe and just playing with different hops, because I think they've got the West Coast IPA malt base quite, really damn solid in this one. So yeah, gets a thumbs up from me. That's everything we need to say about this one. This was the Monologue IPA, 7% ABV from Ise Kadoya in Ise City in Mie Prefecture here in Japan. If you get the chance to try this, do have a go at it. I think it's very, very nice, and I do hope we see this beer or something using the base recipe making another appearance soon. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Ise Kadoya as well, and we will return to these guys again very, very shortly, I'm sure. So until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, kanpai, and I'll see you again soon. Ciao just now.